Hello, ladies, and welcome to Mahogany Mamas. The topic of discussion for today is postpartum depression. Postpartum depression is one of the most common medical conditions associated with pregnancy. It is often underdiagnosed and left untreated. Approximately 13% of women in the United States experience postpartum depression after giving birth. The CDC reports that around 1 in 8 women with a live birth have symptoms of postpartum depression. However, 29 to 44% of black women in the country experience symptoms, but they never get diagnosed or treatment. And you may ask why? Why don't these ladies get treatment? For one, because of stereotypes within the black community regarding mental health. Some of them feel like, well, if I go get treated, then my family or somebody will say that I'm crazy, or I don't want to take medication for something like that. I don't want anybody to know. These women may feel like they need to handle everything by themselves due to lack of support or help. Discrimination or bias in the healthcare setting, socioeconomic stressors like financial, they may not be able to afford help, or their insurance may not pay for certain things. There are a lot of reasons why. Who may be at risk for postpartum depression after a delivery? A woman who has a history of depression or another type of mood disorder, history of postpartum depression with a previous pregnancy, if a woman had a traumatic delivery, or if something traumatic happened during the pregnancy. If the pregnancy was unplanned, other stressors like lack of support, marital or relationship issues. Hormonal fluctuations after having a baby can lead to postpartum depression, and that just happens. That's just going to happen after having a baby. And she's a woman might be nursing, so your estrogen, progesterone levels are fluctuating. So things like that can cause a woman to have postpartum depression. And sometimes when this happens, the partner or the spouse just doesn't understand what's going on. He may say, why is she depressed? She just had a beautiful baby, but it's not that simple. So there are a lot of reasons why the lady may be experiencing this. Some signs and symptoms of postpartum depression: persistent sadness, being fine one minute and then crying the next, and she is not able to explain what's going on with herself. Lack of pleasure in hobbies and activities, withdrawing from others, especially family and friends. Fatigue and decreased energy, difficulty concentrating, remembering or making decisions. Difficulty sleeping, trouble bonding or forming an emotional attachment with the baby. Suicidal thoughts, and inability to care for herself and or the baby. And postpartum depression is very different than postpartum blues. Postpartum blues is temporary. It may show up a few days after a woman has a baby, may last for about a week or so, and then it goes away. But postpartum depression can last into years. It can last up until 6 to 7 years after a woman has had a baby, especially if she hasn't sought help and has been left untreated. Black women will suffer in silence sometimes in fear that the baby and their other children will be taken away. I was in a situation where I was caring for a young lady and she mentioned being depressed. So when I got the doctor to go speak to her, she kind of became defensive and she left, and she was like, I know y'all are trying to take my baby. But I think as black women, it's ingrained into us, and we've heard stories about people getting their babies taken away, that we just instantly have that thought if we share what's really going on with us. Another situation where a community worker was checking in on a woman that just had a baby, and she gave her, sometimes there are screenings. One that's very common is the Edinburgh scale, and it'll ask you a series of questions. And the lady's score showed that she was depressed, and the community health worker told her that she could help her find some resources because she sounded like she was depressed, and that lady refused the care. But then her baby ended up getting taken away, and when she saw the community worker again, she told her, she said, the next time when I went to see a doctor or something, I lied. She said, I changed my answers and stuff, or I basically she tweaked her answers. She didn't tell the truth, and she knew that the score would determine whether she was depressed or not. So she tweaked her answers and got like a perfect score. And the community worker said that she saw that, I guess, in her chart. And but the lady ended up her baby getting taken away just because of something that had happened. So there are screenings, but you have to be truthful, just so people will be aware that something is going on with you and that you do need help. I'll share with my testimony. I had postpartum depression after having my son 4 years ago, and it was very hard. For one thing, my husband, when I was 6 months pregnant, my husband started to have a health condition. And after we got discharged from the hospital, the baby and I, incident happened again with my husband. So I ended up going from just having a baby, being a patient, to flipping to going into nurse mode and having to kind of care for him, take care of the baby, because the incident happened at home. And thankfully my mom was there to help, but I don't know what I would have did if she wasn't here. But still, I didn't get time to process having a baby, now changing and going from just being a married couple to a mom and a husband and taking care of a baby. I didn't get time to process anything. I had to switch back into being a nurse again, and that really, really messed with me. But I became very protective, and I would push people away. I know family and friends were calling, wanting to come by to visit and check on me and the baby and stuff, and I would always say no. And I delivered during the pandemic too, so I was like, oh, I don't want anything else to happen. And if something else happened, I even told my husband, I was like, they're going to take the baby and think we can't take care of him, things like that. But I think as a black woman, like I said, it's ingrained into us just because we've heard so many stories. But thanks be to God, I was able, with God on my side, as well as I have an awesome spiritual mentor. She helped me, and I also found a therapist that was very, very helpful. So I asked the ladies, if this sounds like anything that you're going through, then please don't feel like you have to suffer in silence. There is help out there. You just have to let somebody know that you need help. One resource, this is where I found my therapist actually, is therapyforblackgirls.com. They have male and female therapists on there. Also local therapists and counselors, just because the woman that is experiencing the postpartum depression, it just doesn't affect her only. It affects the whole family unit as well as other relationships. So ladies, I hope these tips and this discussion has been very helpful to you. I want to thank you for listening to Mahogany Mamas, and I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.